Welcome to Deep Thought. Your environment impacts your thinking. I'm going to tell a story. Shout out Mr. Nancy. I'm going to tell a story. You know, there was this gentleman, let's give him a name, Elmo. Elmo, right? Some lady friends of mine that know what I'm talking about. They'll catch the joke. Anyway, well, I'll let y'all know what it is. It's whenever a woman had a boyfriend or a husband or something, and I didn't need to know their name. I'd be like, oh, we'll just call him Elmo. Yeah, they would call him Elmo. But so we'll use it for this one. All right, there was this guy named Elmo. He lived in this apartment. A nice little place, right? And he had 3 sets of neighbors, right? You know, it's an apartment. People move in and out. The first set, they're real quiet. And, you know, he took it for granted how well he could just think. He could, you know, his mind was clear and everything. They were nice, you know, they were nice, good people. They kept their stuff clean. They were quiet. They weren't extra loud. And he was good to go. But then you know how things shift. You know, people move in and out. He got a set of neighbors who moved in. They were loud. They were trifling. They were ratchet. Be smoking all over the place, loud talking, extra music. Didn't keep the front of the apartment clean because they'd be outside smoking, throwing their cigarette butts around. And he peeped that all of a sudden his thinking became more chaotic, not as peaceful, you know. And he noticed that his attitude, general attitude and everything was a little bit more contentious, like more stressed. And indeed, he was actually thinking about moving from this place. You know, he was looking around because he said, I got to get out of this. But then, well, neighbors being ratchet, they got kicked out anyway. And he said he noticed a difference right away. Never forget when he told me that. Thanks, Elmo. He knows the difference. He said once they moved out, a new set of neighbors moved in, and they were kind of like the first set. They were nice and quiet. That's part of your environment. You know, sometimes you might live in a neighborhood, you know, you got a nice spot in the neighborhood, but it's a ratchet neighborhood, or it's got a bunch of craziness around. But then you move, and all of a sudden you notice a total difference. I'm going to tell you what. It's hard to really think straight if you in a chaotic environment. And it could be a neighborhood, it could be it could be going to school, it could be your family. It could be your family. There's many people I've met, they say they grew up in some dysfunctional, chaotic environments and they couldn't wait to get out. Indeed, a whole lot of them, once they got out, they didn't deal with their family again. That's how chaotic it was. But they noticed a difference in other areas of their life. You know, you cannot separate who you are and what you think from your environment. Indeed, before I said this before, I'll say it again. Even your immediate environment, keep it straight. Indeed, you can tell a lot about a person by how their immediate environment looks. If it's constantly chaotic and messy and all of that, guess what? It's in their mind. I remember this one young lady I was lusting for a long time till I actually got over to her place and I looked around. I say, you know, I don't think it's worth it. Really, I'm serious. I was like, gotta go. She was fine too, but I was like, man, this environment, I wonder what's up with her mentally. Because it impacts your thinking, and that's just on a small level. That's why you gotta, like, if in your living space, you at least gotta control that. At least control that. Now, when you get outside of that, it's a little bit more problematic because, like I said, you can be on a job. You know, I've been on some jobs when you have a certain set of coworkers. Everything's peaceful. It's fun. But then, you know, how you on jobs, most jobs, you know, people come in and out. All of a sudden, you get a whole different crew. You know, indeed, a really good manager, they don't hire so much as for skill as for somebody who will get along with everybody else. Seriously, you can disrupt a whole work environment with one negative person. Just one negative person. I'm going to be talking about that on this coming Sunday, too. But just one negative person, and then that spreads. See, the thing is, you still got to interact with people. Now, if you're in a position where all you need is your space, a computer and everything. You don't have to go out. You can order stuff. You can limit stuff, but then that's another problem. And the reality is you still got to deal with people. You still got to interact. You can't take a fish out of water and expect it to live. You can't take an animal off of land, throw it in the water, and expect it to live. So you still got to deal with people. And indeed, on a deeper level, how we interact with people actually affects our health. It can make us feel good, or it can stress us out and really cause some pain. That's how deep it is. But your overall environment is going to impact it. Your overall environment, like a big difference, like one that's very obvious, like you have people in very impoverished neighborhoods, where there's no real job security, a lot of unemployment, a lot of people acting ratchet and everything. And you can't really think there. There's been studies done. Shoot, you in a place where everybody's having trouble just paying basic bills. Their behavior isn't as disciplined. Shoot, that's stressed out. Like anybody who's lived in a poor area knows, just walking down the street, you never know when somebody might attack you. You living in an area where the slightest provocation could cause a fight or death. How are you going to think that way? How are you going to do anything? Because you got to worry about survival. Shoot, even making how much money you making. But then if you're making a lot of money, you probably wouldn't be in that impoverished neighborhood. Contrast that with a affluent neighborhood. It's peaceful. You don't have too much crime. Very little crime, minuscule. Maybe some minor stuff. The most you got to worry about is some kid being goofy, knocking over your trash can. But then their parents will catch and punish them and stuff, and they probably had to come over and paint your house or something so they won't do it again. But you living in an affluent neighborhood, you're going to think better. You don't have to worry about little things or microaggressions or stuff like that. That's the environment. And that's an important thing. Like if you're having trouble just thinking, just really concentrating, look at where you at. Like I said, as best as possible, clean up your immediate environment, keep that straight. But think about it. Think about what neighborhood you in. Think about where you live in, what block, where you go to store, every place you encounter other people. Think about the environment. And you might have to simply change it. There's a lot of people who, just by changing their attitudes and stuff or changing their location, they've changed up. There was something, I don't know if they still do it, but where, some people, particularly black people in the North, they were living in northern cities. If they saw particularly young men were acting up, they sent them down south. And I've heard of occasions like that. I've heard of some people who've had a relative stay with them or someone who was problematic. They just changed their environment. That's how powerful it is. I mean, it really impacts your thinking. I want y'all to think about that. If you being stressed out, you can't think straight, look at where you at. Look at your environment. You might have to make some changes. Like I'm continually saying, the best thing you can do is keep your immediate environment pretty well. The best you can do, as best as possible, which you can control. But then try to, if you have a really bad environment, you look for a way to move. Look for a change of environment. You might have to change jobs, everything, change cities. That's how deep it might be. I want y'all to really think about that, okay? Anyway, that's all I have for today. Think on this. Peace and blessings.